and welcome to this frequently requested and long overdue episode of the Rogues Gallery. This is Schizofenik, and in today's video I will take an in-depth look at some of the villains encountered by the First Avenger, Captain America. So let's waste no time and start our tour off with an early villain who was around in the two great wars, Baron Blood. The youngest son of a British aristocrat, John Falsworth, was transformed into a vampire by Dracula. In his undead form, he would be known as Baron Blood and subsequently assisted German intelligence in the two great wars. Decades later, however, he was beheaded by Captain America. Speaking of fangs, we now take a look at the criminal organisation known as the Serpent Society. This snake-themed criminal organisation were originally based in an abandoned mental asylum in New York State, however relocated to a secret location. Initially, the faction were founded by Sidewinder, who treated organised crime like a business. He would assign specific members to each job while supplying them with detailed plans. Additionally, a percentage of the fee paid for each job would be allocated to administration costs, overheads, and legal fees. Members were permitted to take outside jobs provided they pay the society an agreed commission fee. In exchange for these payments, each member would receive group health insurance, free legal representation, and even a place to reside. Despite these perks, several members of the society have changed over the years. Our next villainous organisation, however, is an even larger threat to the First Avenger because they are Hydra. The global terrorist organisation known as Hydra has threatened the free world since the end of the Second World War. Formed by Baron von Strucker, Hydra was initially a conventional organisation with a base on a Pacific island. However, when US Marines destroyed it, Hydra began to decentralise, becoming more difficult to attack. Hydra under von Strucker's leadership would attempt to blackmail the world with weapons of mass destruction on two separate occasions. The first threat was with the Betatron bomb, and the second with a biological weapon called the Death Spore. Despite von Strucker's death, Hydra have continued with their criminal activities and have lived up to their ethos where cutting off one limb would see two more growing in its place. More recently, Hydra has been reinvigorated, allying with their Hand to destroy all superheroes and, most importantly, Captain America and the Avengers. Since we're on the subject of Hydra, now would be a good time to mention their first female member and the only lady on this list in the aptly named Madame Hydra. Originally, the organisation known as Hydra restricted its membership to men, however their first female agent was Laura Brown. Additionally, another female operative took control of Hydra's New York operations and adopted the alias of Madame Hydra before clashing with Captain America. Eventually, she took the new moniker of Viper and became one of the world's most dangerous terrorists. Yet another female Hydra agent, Madame Hydra IV, battled with the Shield and allied herself with the Yellow Claw before committing suicide to avoid capture. Viper subsequently resumed the name of Madame Hydra. As a master martial artist and enhanced super soldier, Captain America is a formidable opponent for anyone bold enough to fight him. As a result, his rogues gallery is filled with a variety of lethal combatants. Orphan James Buchanan Bucky Barnes was a mascot for the soldiers at camp where Steve Rogers was stationed. After learning that Steve was indeed the heroic Captain America, Barnes began assisting him on his missions and eventually became his official partner. Whilst in London, the pair discovered their old enemy Baron Zemo was attempting to steal a drone plane filled with explosives. When the plane took off, Captain America was hurled into the English Channel whilst Bucky leaped aboard and was apparently killed trying to defuse the bomb. Decades later, Captain America discovered that Bucky became the Winter Soldier, the Soviet spy and assassin with a bionic arm. As this super agent, Bucky was sent on covert missions and committed some of the worst assassinations across a 50-year period. The Winter Soldier would come into conflict with Captain America during a mission until Rogers regained possession of the Cosmic Cube, which he used to restore his old friend's memories. Eventually, Bucky would go on to become the new Captain America and even join the Avengers. Another lethal assassin encountered by Cap is one of my favourite villains in this gallery, and that is Crossbones. During his adolescent years, Brock Romolo idolized the Red Skull, so when he became a mercenary as Crossbones, both he and his skeleton crew were frequently employed by the former confidant of Adolf Hitler. This brutal thug's criminal activities would see him repeatedly clash with Captain America. One such incident involves Steve Rogers' ex-girlfriend Rachel Layton, aka Diamondback. The young girl was attacked by Crossbones before he killed her brother that same night. We will leap straight into action with our next ferocious fighter, who is none other than Batroc. While serving the French Foreign Legion, George Batroc trained himself in savate, a form of kickboxing. After pursuing the path of crime, Batroc would form the Batroc Brigade, a carefully selected team of martial artists, assassins, and mercenaries. Batroc would clash with Captain America on several occasions and actually teamed up with Zaran and Machete to steal the superhero shield for Obadiah Stane. Our final fighter in this section of the gallery can match Captain America's fighting skills perfectly because he is the Taskmaster. With the uncanny ability to mimic people's movements, the Taskmaster can match the skills of anyone from an Olympic athlete, master martial artist, or high-powered superhero. The Taskmaster committed several grand larcenies before opening a chain of academies intended to train professional criminals. When the Avengers discovered that he was operating a criminal production line, they began closing his academies down. During his incarceration, the Taskmaster trained John Walker as the new Captain America. Since escaping from prison, the Taskmaster has transitioned to the more lucrative world of mercenary work. Of course, if you cannot match might with the First Avenger, another way to fight him is by using brains, which is exactly what the following villains have done. Austrian psychiatrist Dr. Johann Fenhoff, later known as Dr. Faustus, utilised his skill of psychological manipulation to force his enemies into positions where they would commit suicide. The First Avenger became one of his victims after hiring the doctor to treat his war-related nightmares. Faustus would abuse his position of power and attempt to drive Rogers to insanity. In a self-perpetuating process, Faustus would have his minion Ferret slip Captain America highly potent nightmare-inducing drugs, causing him to book further sessions with the Doctor. After a number of frightening episodes, Captain America finally became wise to the Doctor's plans and pretended taking the medication. Ultimately, Captain America would defeat his tormentor in a physical battle. Our next villain took the notion of Brainbox literally and has appeared in numerous rogues galleries as he is the frequently present MODOK. MODOK came into conflict with Captain America when he attempted to rescue Agent 13, aka Sharon Carter, whose cover was blown as she was trying to discover the existence of MODOK on an AIM submarine. MODOK would reveal himself and attempt to destroy Cap with his mind beams. However, during the encounter, the AIM soldiers betrayed their new leader and tried to abort the submarine. During their daring escape, MODOK detonated the self-destruct device, leaving everyone only moments to get free from the blast. Despite this, all made it out safely, and even MODOK survived by creating a mental force field to shield him from the blast. Subsequently, MODOK would attack Captain America again by creating an android duplicate of Bucky Barnes, who he dispatched to work with the super soldier. Ultimately, however, the android's implanted memories of Bucky's loyalty would not permit him to kill Captain America, and it short-circuited as a result. As a product of the Second World War, it is only natural that Captain America encountered an array of Nazi villains. Our first of these is Baron von Strucker. Prussian noble Baron Wolfgang von Strucker fought for Germany during World War I and joined the Nazi Party when Adolf Hitler rose to power. By World War II, Strucker ascended the ranks and became wing commander of the Death's Head Squadron before he and the Red Skull tried to invade the African nation of Wakanda for their precious vibranium. It was here where he battled with Captain America, who united with the Black Panther to expel the invading forces. Despite their defeat, Strucker managed to preserve the Red Skull when he was buried alive in his bunker after a battle against Captain America. We now move from one Baron to another in Heinrich Zemo. After receiving the highest level of education in his homeland of Germany, the 12th Baron Heinrich Zemo became one of the leading scientific minds in Europe and even served as a soldier during World War I. Soon after, he would join the Nazi Party and eventually develop the Teleforce, his formidable laser weapon. At the start of World War II, Zemo became one of the Nazis' top scientists and even assisted fellow Nazi operative Baron Wolfgang von Strucker against the US Army. It was during this time when Zemo first met Captain America. Whilst working on his invention known as Adhesive X, Captain America invaded his laboratories and the encounter resulted in the experimental substance covering Zemo's cowled head, causing it to become permanently affixed. This act would be the very inception of Zemo's abject hatred towards Captain America. Zemo would seemingly get his revenge when the bomb he placed on a plane exploded, apparently killing Bucky and causing Captain America to fall into the ocean, where he remained for years in suspended animation. Despite not making it into the gallery, I should mention that Baron Helmut Zemo followed in his father's footsteps after his death and continued to battle with Cap. Although more of a Black Panther villain, I have also included the Hate-Monger due to his epic encounter with the First Avenger. Nazi scientist Arnim Zola began devising a means of transferring the mind of Hitler into cloned bodies at the moment of his death. These clones included 2 costumed identities, including the hooded Hate-Monger. Eventually, the Hate-Monger would team up with the Red Skull, enslaving Jewish hostages before forcing them to help create the new Cosmic Cube. However, during an encounter with Captain America, the cube was destroyed when he smashed it with his shield, thwarting the duo's plans. Subsequently, a new Cosmic Cube-powered Hate-Monger manipulated a number of Caucasian Louisiana residents to instigate a race war that would help him take over the United States. Fearing that the illegal immigrants smuggled in from Mexico would take their jobs, the residents slaughtered a number of Mexican schoolteachers who were legally allowed to enter the country. Luckily, Captain America instilled hope in the minds of the people that the Skull and the Hate-Monger had enslaved. The sudden change of emotion caused feedback into the Hate-Monger, causing him to dissipate in a burst of energy. Another villain who took to placing his brain within a monitor is the Nazi scientist Arnim Zola. It was during the 1930s that Swiss geneticist Arnim Zola discovered a book of deviant science that revealed the secrets of creating artificial life. Armed with this newfound knowledge, Zola would build himself a new body consisting of a brain inside its chest, an ESP box for a head with a holographically projected face upon it. Despite how he looks, there is some truly mind-blowing artwork on this character, as you can see here. His new talents would see him become an important member of Hitler's Third Reich, preserving Hitler's consciousness after his death in the form of the Hate-Monger. His other creations have included Primus as Doughboy, as well as bioplastoids that can impersonate any being. The aforementioned creation saw him become a frequent foe of Captain America, where he even resurrected the Red Skull into a copy of Cap's own body. And that brings us on nicely to our final villain in the previously mentioned Red Skull himself. Born within a German village, Johann Schmidt's mother died during his birth and his father committed suicide after failing to drown the child. The orphan Schmidt became a beggar and a thief whilst also taking menial jobs. However, Hitler decided to turn Schmidt into the perfect Nazi as he was impressed with the young man's hatred of humanity. Hitler would oversee Schmidt's training and awarded him with a skull-like head mask before naming him the Red Skull. Answerable only to Hitler himself, the Red Skull undertook a variety of missions for the Third Reich that included acts of terror. The US government, however, would create the Red Skull's greatest enemy in the super soldier Steve Rogers, who took the moniker of Captain America and battled his foe before the United States entered the Second World War. During the conflict, the Red Skull commanded numerous military missions and ascended to the position of the second most powerful man in the Third Reich. Subsequently, Captain America fought the Skull in Hitler's bunker before a bomb caused it to cave in, which seemingly killed the Red Skull. Despite this, an experimental gas kept the villain in suspended animation for decades. Eventually, the Red Skull was revived, and his new lease of life saw him determined to become ruler of the world. However, his attempts at global domination were repeatedly thwarted by Captain America. In time, the effects of the experimental gas dissipated, and the Skull aged and died. As a result, the Nazi genetic engineer Arnim Zola transferred the Skull's consciousness into a new body cloned from Captain America. Coincidentally, his own dust of death caused the Skull's new head to resemble a living Red Skull. Although Johann Schmidt seemingly perished on several occasions, he has always been resurrected to continue his war against Captain America and the free world. That brings an end to our tour of the villains of Captain America. I hope that you enjoyed the presentation of the First Avengers Rogues Gallery, but if I did exclude any of your favourite villains, then do feel free to list them in the comment section. Also, be sure to let me know which other galleries you would like me to visit in future uploads. Until then, however, do take care.